Where the finger goes, the power goes. Now understand that in your internal world, within your mind, the emotional turbulence that you experience is a direct reflection of the inadequacy of the possession of your mind. You have to understand that the only thing that can influence you is what you allow in. To have a permeable space of consciousness, and then to allow things from the external to flow within. That is the only way you can be influenced. And so what happens is most of you guys are influenced and derailed off of the path because some emotional turbulence is spontaneously erupted within your existence. Something didn't go your way, and so you feel some way emotionally. This emotion, this sparks a reaction, and here you are reacting to life, and thus creating a reactionary creation instead of something intentional. So what do we do every fucking day? Well, we wake up and we set the intention to be the best version of self, to maximize the energetic expenditures that God has provided within this one existence, and to move through life conquering with the brute force and willpower, no delusion, no, grandeur of this fake performance of validation seeking or any of this. No, we simply wake up, we look in the mirror, or we realize that the value of our life is what we attribute to it, and then we instill the work through the work ethic, which is cultivated through the habits which create a positive character, that creates a character reflecting eminent qualities. And most of you guys, your character is so shit. You guys are addicted to porn. You guys are fucking smoking weed. You guys live at your mom's house when you're over the fucking age of 20. And so we have to come to the realization that the reason your life is so shit and mediocre is because you are a bitch. And then once we hit that conclusion, once we could come to the recognition, once we can realize the fact that we are not who we pretend to be, we now have the possibility to change. The reason you guys can't fucking change, the reason you guys end up on this cycle of remaining the same low-level piece of shit is because you don't actually believe you have any flaws, because you're unaware to the fact you're flawed. You guys are so okay and so allowing of being a low character. Your standards are so low for yourself that you are fine where you are at, and thus you will surrender yourself to life and live a life of shit. And so you have to understand that time is fucking valuable, and the energy that is attributed within the time spent is a direct reflection of your character, because where your energy goes, the attention flows, and where you put your attention is a reflection of your character. And so when you put your attention into low quality things like Pornhub, hanging with friends and smoking weed all fucking day, you're fucking failing at life miserably. Well, you have to understand that this is a direct reflective of your character. And so what you have to understand is where the attention goes, the energy flows. And so your life is this endless cycle of energy being wasted and leaked. But what you have to understand is that you can look in the mirror and simply realize you're a pussy and change. And so the best thing to do is actually confront yourself. And then you realize that the reason you're such a low-level piece of shit and the root causation of these low-quality habits is you pointing your finger at everything but yourself. The reason you smoke weed is because you feel fucking pain. What a bitch. The reason you smoke weed is because you're so stressful, because everything around you is causing emotional turbulence. What you have to understand is that stillness is the key. You have to be able to sit with yourself in silence and allow awareness to begin occupying the space in your brain instead of the emotional turbulence that causes stress. Most of you guys exist in a survival state of consciousness. This is why you will never actually come to the realization that the power was within you to change this entire time. You guys are reacting to life, and it's because the emotional turbulence that you exist within is making you form into things you don't want to be. What happens when you are a reactionary individual? You react, and then you create a reactionary creation you did not intend to create. And so most people are this accumulation of reactions of the span of their lifetime, of reacting to emotional opinions, conforming, and all this shit. This is why you are unfulfilled. This is why you don't see progress. This is why you remain on the same level. It's because you refuse to realize that you are the causation of the problems. And so as long as you allow anything other than yourself to influence and to sway you, you will be at the mercy of whatever is enslaving you to its will. Every time you allow something to emotionally occupy the space in your brain and navigate you to some place you don't want to be, you are now a slave to the will of whatever is controlling you. And so what you have to understand is that in stillness, you will find the awareness that you are really just a low-level piece of shit, and it's time to look within instead of without. Most of you guys go your entire fucking life seeking something to fix you. Most of you guys go your entire life seeking to take from other people to grab their flow instead of create your own. What you have to understand is that you have to become a self-sustaining fucking organism by looking at yourself and realizing you have deficits and rooting and uprooting the causation of, which is you seeking to replenish your deficits through any means but yourself. Every time you pick up the vape, you're seeking homeostasis through heterostasis. This means you're trying to balance your emotional turbulence in your internal state with something that is in the outer world. And so what happens when you don't get the weed? Well, now you flip out. Now you're stressed. Now you have more emotional turbulence stacked on top of the emotional turbulence. And so what we have to understand is that if you want to conquer the emotional turbulence, you have to understand that some are okay with being in a state of chaos and making a home in it. But if you truly believe that this is no longer for you, and you truly need a key to open the door to escape that room of fucking chaos that you've been existing in, well, you have to understand that stillness, that's where you find power. You have to understand that when you reflect upon yourself, when you can sit down in the turbulence and ground yourself and stand as a pillar of strength, this is where you find the power. You find the power when your brain goes crazy, but you have the willpower and the intention to sit down and ground. And when you ground yourself, when you can sit there and reflect on your thoughts, you have to understand that your thoughts are producing your behavior, and your behavior is creating your future circumstance. And so if you're not making any progress, well, you have to reflect on what the fuck you're spending your fucking time on, and what the fuck quality energy is being induced into the time spent within your existence. Because you will stagnate in the same position if you don't realize that you have the power and to bend space and time at your will instead of being bent by it. Most of you guys go your entire fucking life a slave to the emotional turbulence, a slave to the addiction. You guys are slaves to Pornhub. You guys are slaves to vape. You couldn't even quit if you fucking wanted to. That's a definition of a slave. Ask any human what the fuck they want, and if they know themselves a little bit, they'll say fucking freedom. You're too fucking dumb to be free. Understand that the power is within your hands, and as long as you point at everything external instead of point at your fucking chest, you will continuously on this endless cycle be derailed by things that can be easily overcame within your mind. The moment you overcome it internally, you overcome it externally. The moment you can see it within yourself and you can see the root of inadequacy that is reverberating into your existence, the moment you can uproot the internal flaw is when the external flaw is diminishing, and now it time collapses. And as you progress through time, the problem will disolutionize. And so it's all about dissolving the problems through time. Because if you have an existential problem, well, you're going to wake up tomorrow and it's still going to be there. But the moment you can actually realize that you're the problem and then seek the answer of fixation within yourself, to fixate on the fixing of that problem, this is where the problem actually begins to disolutionize. This is where you actually begin to see progress. And the progress begins internally before you see anything externally. And so when you begin something like a goal, when you begin your body, whatever the fuck we do, it's personal development. Anything that is significantly changing the trajectory and the direction of your life through the work you put into yourself, any result produced therefrom is going to begin as a seed within your mind. And so the motion of unfolding this seed begins internally and then will manifest externally. And so it's all about the internal cultivation of the whatever is needed to produce the quality externally. And so when you want to produce a specific body, if you want that body, well, you need the internal qualities such as discipline to wake up and to conquer the resistance. When you need to read and apply the knowledge, it's all different qualities being induced into a specific time frame, which is producing results. And so it's very fucking simple instead of complication, become complex. But before you can develop into complexity of character, well, you have to reflect on the complications within your life, reduce it to simplicity, and reflect upon yourself. And then as you develop, you will see you slowly develop into something more complex. You have to understand that most of you guys exist in a state of complication. The simplest of fucking problems, you fucking create this fucking problem that is so big and it doesn't need to exist. You're the one fueling it because you have all this emotional turbulence because you're too fucking weak to sit there in a pillar as a pillar of strength within it with stillness. And this is why you fall short, and this is your downfall. And so the best thing to understand is anything that controls you externally, well, you have to reflect on why it's controlling you, and then you have to do some shit to conquer some shit, or you will be a slave to it, and it will navigate you and derail you from the path of true internal and external freedom.